how did you stumble across Ninth Wonder? Because I have heard tons of his stuff. I just didn't know that's who it was, and I feel a little bit ashamed about that. So
There's no shame.
Maybe you could teach me something.
No shame at all. I mean, I've learned a lot of what I have learned about like 90s and 2000s rap and hip hop from my friend Phil, who's one generation above me, but not like my parents' generation. So like that's the age that he grew up in. So he's shown me a lot of, like, he put me on Dilla, he put me on Ninth Wonder, and like the people of that generation, like Common and all those different rappers that were coming up in that time, and like the genre of music that was created then. So he put me on to him a couple of years ago, I guess, or maybe probably a couple years ago. And then I also found him through Kendrick's Damn album, because he produced my favorite song on that album, and like one of my favorite songs ever, which is Duckworth. And it's so it's so incredible. Good. And he did a YouTube video with, I think it's NPR, where he broke down the 3 samples that he used in that song. And
I think I watched that too when you sent me this other one.
It's incredible. Like, watching him work is so cool. So yeah, that's where I found him.
I think I saw that he produced for Destiny's Child. Like
which is the album that I talked about last. Yeah.
And just amazing, like, to see. I have one of, that machine that he had in front of him. I have one of those. And looking at him use it just, like, we talk about material things and all that stuff, and I think when I bought it, I was in a place of like, I just want this
cool gadget.
And a lot of producers that I look up to use that machine. It's called the Machine. But when I saw him use it, it was in like a way that is completely different than how I would usually approach making a beat with it. And it just inspired me so much. And looking at his catalog is like, I just think it's amazing that he can kind of fly under the radar. And not that he shouldn't be recognized, but like he flies under the... Yeah. Like, I guess a lot of people, it would be comparable to like, a lot of people don't know that Metro Boomin has done so many tracks for however many artists now, but... Yeah.
A lot of producers fly under the radar, I think, because they're just not the name on the front of the album. So, but you're right with that. But like when you hear the beat, then, and you pay attention to it, then you can hear it in other songs. Like that Destiny's Child album, I can hear the exact, like those 2 songs that he produced. I'm like, I can hear the same style.
And it's like knowing who he is almost immediately makes the song a little bit cooler in your mind. It just adds that layer of, like, if I knew that Frank Ocean was singing, even if it was like this fully reverbed out vocal on the back of like a Calvin Harris song, which is, I don't know, I was just thinking of a random artist, but like if I knew that his voice was back there, I'd be like, oh, that just makes it a little bit cooler knowing that he was behind it.
I think that's what I like about learning some of the music production things from you, because it's cool to just know what goes into something, and like you just press play on and you hear all the sounds and you're like, okay, it's a catchy song, but like knowing every component of it just makes it that much cooler. And when you can hear it and then listen for it, I think it makes you a better listener too.
Totally. I just recently stumbled across this producer who, you know what Fruity Loops is? It's like a it's like a software that, it's like Logic, right?
Yeah.
There's a kid that produces on there, and he titles his videos like graduation Kanye West type beat, like, the type beat thing.
Yeah.
And I almost wish that, this is a little bit off topic, I guess, but I wish that he would title it in a way that's original to him, because I wouldn't have even thought that he was taking from graduation. And maybe he's doing it for the clickbait, but he just made an incredible beat, regardless of what it's... I appreciate that he's like showing love to the album that he loves, but also,
now all I can think about is graduation.
This is your inspiration. Like, you can totally pay homage to all of those artists that you love and make the thing that you love too. And it's just interesting because I find a lot of producers making like they'll label their beats this certain way, but
type beat, yeah.
But you're making your own thing, and that's how I stumbled across Samplet. Samplet, I guess is what it's called. And have you ever heard of this before?
I looked it up when you wrote it down, so it's cool. It's a cool
like the first thing that pops up is like a 1950s like I don't even know what genre to call that. It's like so it was maybe soul is what it would be, but I mean, finding a resource like that where you can now pull something that nobody else knows but has so much history behind it is like, that's also just such a cool thing. I don't know. But sampling as a whole, I know you've brought up sampling a few times in this podcast. And what do you think it is about a sample? I guess we kind of just touched on it, but dive deeper with me. I'm curious, like, what is it about a sample that you think kind of brings you closer to the music?
Specifically, I think because my favorite kind of samples are this like soul, that just like genre of music, that like Motown samples, any of those kind of things. It just brings me, because you're not always in the mood to listen to maybe that music, or like maybe we're so, some people like, I don't know, I the majority of what I listen to is the music of today, but like sometimes you're in the mood for some older stuff, or like Sunday morning kind of like jams. But when you can hear the sample and the newer stuff, it just brings you right back. I love the feeling that it gives me. And even like
you're saying like the feeling of having something new, but also like the contrast of new and old is what. Yeah,
I just love. I love that genre of music, and so when I hear it and then I hear like a beat put over top of it, it just sounds so cool, and it just brings me back to. It just honestly sonically just sounds so good in my in my head, so I love it. But I'm trying to think now.
I mean, it's not an easy question to answer. I don't know. I don't even know how I would answer that question. But
I also think it's cool when you're not prepared for it and then you hear it and you're like, oh, I know what this is. Like when something clicks in your head, or someone like uses a sample from another, like there's this song from The Weeknd and it uses a sample from Beach House, which is my favorite group. And I remember hearing it and I was like, oh my gosh. And like, you can't quite put it together. But then when you do, you're like, like it's just an exciting thing when you pay attention and it like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like clicks. The idea of a remix almost, I guess. Like everybody gets excited about a remix.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like, especially when you can bring something that's so old. Like, I think there are a ton of samples from Yeezus that are from like, I don't know, like the earliest recordings of music, you know? Like,
wow.
Don't quote me on that, but it's like it is extremely old production that he's combined with like new age technology that just like, I don't know.
But like, and otherwise would that stuff disappear eventually? Is it cool to bring it back and like throw it back into the mix of things?
Totally. Okay, because but how about like gone. A sample like Fergie, you know, like they did the Fergalicious.
Like the Jack Harlow song.
Like a sample like that, how does that, like, we know it's not the same thing. We all know that, like, when you hear it, it just isn't the same feeling. But I wonder why. Like, that's what I can't figure out about samples. It's like,
why that song, or why does it still sound good?
No, like, why does it feel like pop, and why does something like why do other things feel like hip hop, you know, like, and we're going to talk about genre soon.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just interesting to me that you can have this artist that just does not feel like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel raw. It doesn't feel, there's something about it. I'm really having a hard time finding the words, but But there's like when J. Cole does a sample, it's like there's just something about the intention behind it, maybe.
Well, because if you're talking like First Class sounds like a pop song because I think he made it to be a radio hit.
Yeah.
I don't think he made it to be R&B or like hip hop. I think he made it to be a TikTok song. Like there's a dynamic where like I can tell when like people like Doja Cat or like SZA, the SZA album I listened to, and then you can hear when like they flip into like, I don't know, advertising mode where they're trying to make a TikTok song, and it's like, oh, I all of a sudden I hear it and I'm like, okay, this was made for something. And I don't know if that existed. I guess the radio always existed, but like this dynamic specifically is like, oh, you're trying to make a song that will like be viral for a month.
I guess I just wonder if, because it's Fergalicious, like this was already a banger back then. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out why we receive it so differently sometimes, but it is like, or even why somebody would have the intention of sampling something to make it a hit. I don't know. It's just not as common, right? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I can't even think of.
I don't know. Right, I think the intention. I think I know the exact intention behind it, and he did it successfully. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's much. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and he made a bop for that exact reason.
Right.
I don't know if there's much thought behind it otherwise. I think the producer were like, it would be sick. And then like.
So do you think other samples, like, I don't know. I wish I could think of more examples, but do you think other samples are typically trying to pay homage to something? Is that what do you. Like the ones that aren't trying to be a hit?
Yeah, I think they're trying to pay homage. Maybe, like, depending on the artist and. Depending on the artist. I guess I could also speak from my own
experience with samples, but I mean, I just look for what sounds the best in my head. Like, I don't even really think too hard about where it came from, or although I think I should sometimes. But most of the time, there's not that much. I don't know. Like sometimes we put a lot of thought into making like the perfect story for a song, and it's like, does it really need to have a perfect story, or does it just need to sound good? Sometimes I think there's a balance.
Exactly. I think there's some artists that are looking for the story behind it, and then I think the majority of people want to just find something that sounds good. And like even that in that Rhythm Roulette video with Ninth Wonder, he's literally just looking for the best beat in the entire. Like he's looking through the records for the best sound, and it comes from like some country artist, and he's like, whatever, it is what it is. And that's exactly it. So we got that right there. Obviously that was a challenge video, but like still, I guess that kind of shows you're just looking for something that sounds good to I don't know, to create something out of. Yeah, and inspire you.
Yeah.
And if I think that's what it, then whatever. But
yeah, I often think that the story comes after, like, because every song has a story. Like that's a given, but whether it's, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. I'm just thinking about how I write, and it usually stems from hearing something cool right off, like something cool or
totally
catchy, whatever it is.
I agree.
But Samplet, it was like, I always get hyped about the Discover Weekly playlist on Spotify because I think it just gives you a good scope of like the genres you like and stuff that you haven't heard.
Yep. Forces you to branch out a little bit.
Yeah, but Samplet it has no idea what I like. And I'm like pressing shuffle, and every time I'm like, the intention that I have while listening is so much different than if I were listening to the Discover Weekly playlist, because it's like
kind of in your comfort zone.
Exactly. And it's like you really have to think like, do I like this or do I not? Like there's some Japanese disco and I'm like, I think I actually really love this.
Really love. Not just like,
well, like I was at first, I think I was trying to convince myself that it was just like a novelty type of thing and not that like it's like, oh, just this cool is new because and cool. It's from the 70s and it's Japanese, you know?
Sure.
But then I started thinking, and I actually started playing a drum beat over it, and I was like, you know what? This is actually fun. But it's
which is okay. Like, you can formulate, you can slowly make your opinion. It's the same thing we were talking about where it's like, no, this is trash. Next. Like 10 seconds of attention span. Or you could kind of give it a proper chance and be like, I think I dig this. And then turns out you actually like it.
Yeah, totally. It's just an interesting experience. And then, like Ninth Wonder did, which all producers probably will do at some point, is just like pull something from somewhere that doesn't really make a lot of sense and make something from it. So I tried doing that as well. And I mean, it's, first of all, it's much harder than it looks. But there's like, it's cool to see that there are, you know, those opportunities in every song.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could just say yes to every single one and try to flip every single one. And there's usually something that can come from it, whether it's not going to be amazing every time, but it is cool that there's like a piece of something.
There's an opportunity in every song. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It was really cool to watch that. And I was going to say something else.
Maybe we'll link that video.
Yeah.
If people want to
I've watched a couple of videos with him before. Like, I've researched into him before, and he was talking about how he, like, when he was growing up, he would do like 30 beats a day just to challenge himself for like years as he was like mastering the craft. Yeah. And
it was like the Kobe mentality, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, let me just do as much of this as I can. So I don't know. That's huge. From what you're saying about how it's much more difficult than it looks, like, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, if you could compare basketball and music for a second, like, you could go to the court and just try to shoot 100 threes and make 10 of them. Or you can start from the from very close and get like 10 out of 10 every single time, right? Or 9 out of 10, and then back up. And then once you have that mastered, you keep pushing. So like, I'm comparing that to music because when I was talking about looping and all that stuff, like how you can get in this cycle of just like making random beats that don't go anywhere. That's kind of how I feel about like that in a music making sense, because you're like putting your energy in the wrong place, you know? Like, for so many years, I probably should have been thinking about how to construct a song rather than just
from start to finish.
Like, oh yeah, I know how to make a beat on 4 bars and just loop it. That's, you know. So if he were making like 30 beats a day, when I heard him say that, I'm like, so much. I could have done so many things differently.
It's true. But like, how are you going to make 30 songs a day? That's insane.
Yeah.
Like 30 beats, that's just one portion of the entire song. But
that's true.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that's possible.
It's your full-time job, I guess. But yeah, anyway, It was cool.
Yeah, totally. And then what did we were talking a little bit about Drake. It's Mos Def that was saying that?
Yeah.
Do you know, is that somebody's podcast that we...
Yeah, so I looked into it, and it's a podcast called, and I forget the name of it. It's like Closet Door or something. I forget the name of it, but it's on Patreon, and you have to pay to access it.
Okay.
But I did contemplate... Sorry, guys.
All good?
Yeah, everything's fine. Just a bunch of stuff just fell over.
Oh God.
It's okay. Yeah, it's on Patreon, and you have to pay to access it, which I contemplated doing because I really want to listen to the whole video, because there's always like context before that conversation, and like I love him in general, so I just want to hear what he has to say about other things. But that was definitely like the clickbait aspect of it, which I don't really have like a whole lot of opinions on it other than I think he's correct. Like,
yeah,
which we kind of just talked about, like pop versus, you cannot compare the Drake today to 90s and early 2000s real rap and hip hop. That's completely different. Mm-hmm. If I were him, I would find it insulting to even like call it
right
hip hop. But what are your thoughts on it?
I think what you just said is pretty much on point. Like I just agree with him.
Yeah.
But what did he call it? He called Drake's music some kind like retail, like a retail he says, I think experience.
He says, I think it's pop. I think it reminds me of if I were to go into Target in Houston and I were, pick out a couple things and all of a sudden like, Hotline Bling comes on, he'd be like, yeah, like this is a great song. Makes me want to buy things. Like it's pop. Yeah, right. So, and that makes, if you compare old Drake to Drake now, then like, I think there's a big difference there, but I think
I guess that was one of my thoughts is that like, I stopped listening after Take Care, which is probably not very respectful to say.
Yeah. That hurts to hear, but
I mean, like we kind of went through all the stuff that I know and have listened to since then. So it's obvious.
I think you're missing out on some things respectfully.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't truly stop listening after Take Care, but it was like that. Take Care was one of those albums that I sat and listened to like on repeat for days on end and never got tired of it. So I just wouldn't be able to do that with his music now.
Yeah, agreed. I don't think his past few albums have like hooked me the way that the previous ones have, and I can also feel that there's a difference. Like I was talking to a couple friends about this like back when Honestly Nevermind came out, which was not a favorite of mine at all. And I'm
gonna get hounded so badly. I just realized.
What did you say?
I said I'm gonna get hounded so badly from this, but
no, I don't think so. A lot of people hate Drake. Like
a lot of people love Drake.
Yeah, I think it might be equal, but I noticed the pattern of like, okay, he's putting stuff out every year now instead of like every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years. Now he's like putting out a whole album every year. I'm like, your heart's not in this. I can just feel that it's different because he's just pumping out, and I can just, the songs don't go together. There's no cohesive, like Honestly Nevermind definitely had like an electronic kind of vibe, but I think a lot of what he's putting out now doesn't really go together, and I can just feel that he's just pumping out singles and like not real. I don't know. I think he's gotten to a place where like he could have safely retired at like a prime, and I think now he's just like, I don't know, riding out.
And he could also like, he could make those, let's call them deep cuts again.
Yeah.
But like he could make, with the success that he's had, he could go back and make like that pure music that we know he can make.
Yeah, I know he's still talented. I think he's just like,
and like you have the financial freedom to do it.
Yeah.
You don't need to make any more money, right?
Yeah, you could sit in the studio. You could wait like 3 years and then really sit in the studio when you actually have something to say and like make something that you're truly proud of. I don't know if I don't really get the motive. It's like he's going to be relevant no matter what.
He's a amazing business person.
Yeah.
Like, and that could be a lot of the motivation behind that. Like, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people see music as a business, right?
Totally. So, that's really funny. Just in general, like I'm gonna get hate on this for.
Oh God, I'll never have anything bad to say about him because of how amazing he's like his career has been.
Oh, like, totally, yeah.
It's just like he's an icon, right? But it like when you talk about like that pumping music out idea, you know. Like you can go back to Frank Ocean again and say like how much meaning his albums have to people because of how sparse they are.
Yeah.
And, but it's kind of funny because I think he tricks people, and a lot of the things that he's singing about or rapping about or whatever he does, he like they don't. I wonder if they actually don't have as much like deep meaning as we all think, but he's just done such a good job of making us think that there's so much meaning behind it.
Who, Frank Ocean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he has a talent of tapping into your feelings, but talking about nothing at the same time.
And yeah, I think so much of that comes from not releasing music and making us wonder. Like you've already made us wonder, so we're going to keep wondering while we listen to your music.
It's true. When you're mysterious like that, there has to be meaning behind everything because he's so like coming in and coming out. It just, I don't know.
What does he want to say now?
It must be important because like he's coming out of the woodwork.
He wouldn't talk otherwise.
He wouldn't say anything. Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, he must live such a great life by, I don't know, just by kind of staying in the shadows a little bit and not being all out in the paparazzi all the time. And I think that's like a dream, you know?
I think that's the ideal way to do it.
Yeah. That's how I would like to go about things. Like, of course, at some point, I don't know, like that business mentality where in order to get your music off the ground, you need to be ready to be like, to go out there and put yourself on a,
that's like we were talking about, I think we were talking about Mac DeMarco, like, couple times, like a couple times ago, and we were talking about how he was on Emma Chamberlain's podcast and he's like, well, I never made it that big, so I was just like the perfect coasting. He's like, I toured for 8 years or something through my 20s, and then I just gradually left the scene, and now he can go to the grocery store and do all this stuff. He's like, I got a good amount of money, like I'm okay. Like he's completely content, and it's perfect.
And maybe there are more artists out there, right?
I'm sure like, there's plenty.
It's probably a countless number. It's like, anyway.
Yeah. We're kind of dragging on this. It's possible.
It was like I was trying to look for something to say there, but it wasn't going to have any value.
We can let it die. It's okay.
This question, though, of I wrote out, does genre matter? Because I really got to thinking about this idea. And I'll tell you my first thought on it, and then I'm curious what you have to say. But first of all, I think people they'll say no to specific genres. Like they'll go outright and say that I won't listen to country,
Yeah.
But I'll listen to everything
that person.
Else. Right. And I was that person as well. I used to say I listen to everything except country.
But country, yeah.
And I don't know. I guess the purpose of the genres is like so you can find what you're looking for, right?
Yep.
Like if I feel like listening to country, that I'll look up something country, or if I feel like listening to rap, I'll look that up, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's its main purpose, but does it really matter? I guess that's the only thing I could think of that makes genre matter. But I'm hoping that maybe you can jog my mind even more about this, because I'm really curious if it even matters at the end of the day.
That's a really good question.
Like, shouldn't we all just be like, I want to listen to music and like,
I have such
and just be open to listening to whatever comes on. It could still be good or bad, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking still. I have my mind is like, no, genre doesn't matter. Like music's just music. And then my gut is telling me, because I'm such like a rule follower, I'm like, genre matters. Like people need to stay in their lane, and like, I'm so like rigid. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I think it does matter because, this is like really hard. I want to say it matters. I'm curious. I might need like a minute on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's because there are like forefathers of each section that I think that it needs to be respected in a certain way.
That's how I think it needs to be respected. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I want the right people. I can't.
I love this. I kind of love this. Well, I think if somebody, we were talking, I don't know how many episodes ago about, like wanting to hear people's music when they go on the aux, and
yeah,
I think that's kind of where it comes. That's where this thought comes from, is like, I'm just going to be open-minded to whatever you put on, and I'm not going to, like, if you listen to country and you love this song, then I'm going to just open my mind to it and see what happens for myself.
Yep. And
like, that goes for any new artist that people introduce me to. I don't care who it is, what kind of genre it is. It really doesn't matter to me. Like, but I think more people would be on your side of like that. Like, there's rules want it to matter.
Shit. Yeah, there's rules. There's rules. But then at the same point, I want artists to have their creative freedom as well. Like, I wrote down that because what inspired me to think of that was because Tyler, the Creator, he went to the Grammys a couple years ago, and I think this was for
Igor.
Yeah, it was for Igor, and he was in the like urban category. And he was really upset because he won, I think, Best Rap Album. And he's like, this isn't a rap album. And why, like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Why can't it be pop? Why can't it be something else? Why can't it just be music? And he's like, it felt like a slap in the face to be put in the urban album, which was just solely Black people. He's like, this just feels like some kind of category for just Black artists only. And he's like, I want to be able to break out of that. I want to be with everybody else, because the majority of every Black artist went into the urban category, and then everybody else was like in country and pop and like, all these, scores for movies and all these things. And he was like calling out where genre actually was a disservice to his music.
Yeah.
He's like, this was more than just a hip hop or like a rap album to me.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm like, oh man, maybe genres are limiting to specific artists.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, I don't know. To me, I enjoy grouping those things together and knowing where the influence comes from. But like, I could be wrong. I don't know.
I feel like I don't know if on which side I stand here, because it is like a really, like, the question itself is like existential, and there's a lot of different paths that we can go down because of that. But yeah, that's another one of those situations where I just agree with Tyler, and it's like there shouldn't be like any confines of like where he's allowed to go in the music industry, because of how he looks. And
well, like, imagine if this Wind album by Andre 3000 won like a hip hop award. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but just because the artist is in that genre for the most of his like discography, I think it should be like whatever the creation or I think that like the artist should have some kind of
decides. Yeah. What did they upload on DistroKid?
Yeah. Like, I don't think you should be nominated for something unless the artist agrees, like, yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe as artists, we don't even know sometimes what it is. That's where that's where my thoughts go sometimes. Like, especially when I've uploaded my own music, it's like they tell you to select a genre, and I'm like, I don't even know what genre this is. Like,
that's true.
I just made what I thought sounded cool. And
because actually for a lot of your music, I don't know what genre I would pick for it either.
Well, I usually go for like alternative something.
Yeah.
Depending on what it is. But alternative is just another word for the word other.
That's so true too. Yeah.
So it's like, and other is also an option.
Yeah. So what do you pick?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough. I'm gonna like keep thinking about that because it's a tough question. But honestly, like ultimately, I would want the artist to be honored in whatever they created and decided. But
or maybe just the Grammys shouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation that I would agree with. But I agree with that.
One thing I do love about the Grammys is that it gives artists an opportunity to publicly thank and like and accept an award for their achievements. Like that's one thing that I love seeing. I don't know when the last time I actually watched the Grammys was, but when I see those speeches, I'm like, that's like, you get to see that little piece of the artist that's not through the music and something that they decided. The media didn't decide this for them. Maybe in some cases they did.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But like in his case, like you just get this authentic version of like how he perceives his own album. And I think that matters more than whatever they labeled. Like his hit, like the way that he was able to say what his intentions were and what he does and doesn't like about it. It opens up our eyes as an audience to like what he actually intended. So
yeah, but then it's like, because of those commentaries, you might not be invited next year.
That's
so it's like you
true.
Can't really speak your mind completely because the Academy is going to be like, pardon, you're not grateful. But
yeah. No, that's a great point too. Yeah, 100%.
You can only kind of speak within the confines of the institution.
And how many people are like fearless enough to say those things?
Yeah, not many. It's true.
Because I'm sure there are like other things surrounding the Grammys. Like there's influence all over the place.
Of course,
Could mess up your career completely, which is so messed up. So let's boycott the Grammys.
I think we're late to that, but yeah. This was like 3 years ago. Everyone's like, boycott the Academy Awards, everything, every award ceremony.
It's never too late. They're going to shut down our podcast.
If you don't see us next week, this is why.
Honestly. Okay. On a completely different note, we need to clear some air on this episode.
We do. We have some housekeeping to do.
I'm just going to jump right into it.
Yeah, we made some errors. We apologize.
Apparently, so on episode 1, we were talking about how we met and our fathers were best friends. That's a little bit of a preface. We didn't know when they met each other.
No, we made it up.
Apparently they were... Yeah, we made it up. Apparently they were 3 years old.
Yeah, they were babies.
That's really all we have to have.
We just want to correct that. We just want to correct it.
And then there's a photo of our grandfathers. One of those grandfathers is actually my uncle.
Yeah, yep.
My Uncle Mike.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yep.
Respect Uncle Mike.
I mean, to be fair, it's an old photo and maybe all of us Maltese people look kind of the same. Listen,
yeah, I'm not going to confirm or deny, but yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's really it. I mean,
no, from my end, you got some housekeeping to do on your end too.
Yeah, I mean, me trying to glaze past it, like, no, I think that's everything. The dates that I referenced in the first episode are all wrong, but also, like, I was talking to my friends about it, and high school just blurs into one period of time. So I think I referenced that I was in like grade 9 when we went to Way Home, and I had already graduated high school, so like it was long past then. And then I was chatting with my friend Maddie because she listened to the first episode this week, and first of all, she's like, I do want to be a guest, so we will have her eventually.
Did we? Was that in the first episode that we said that?
Yeah, I said that it would be cool to have her as a guest, and so we confirmed. I'm like, when you come home, then maybe we can like have you on, which would be really cool. But she said that she wanted to clarify that I definitely downplayed the story of me fainting. And she's like, no, you were out cold, like eyes rolling back into your head. She's like, it was a traumatic night for me. So I just want to like pay respect to her because she had to endure that, not me. And she also said, she also said that somehow you guys found each other, and that's how I got out of the crowd, because somehow you would like, I don't know, notice that it was me and then jumped in or something. I don't know, but
okay,
that's what she said.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blur for me as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it was just funny to hear that from her perspective. She's like, it was a lot more serious than how you put it. And I'm like, oh damn, sorry.
I mean, I remember the look on her face.
Yeah.
And like she looked devastated.
Because she said that nobody was helping us, so I was just like, people were just giving us dirty looks because someone was falling in the crowd, and she's like, I was trying so hard to get you out, and then which is just so funny. And she's like, and I like somehow made eye contact with Alex, and he like jumped in, and somehow we got you out, and that was it. I was like, oh wow, this is quite the story. She's like, yeah, you wouldn't remember because you were like unconscious. So I was just like completely making up my own story in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I all I really remember was like making sure that you could walk, like, and you were walking fine.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, I mean, again,
it's just funny to like get someone else's perspective on it. It's just like,
and then we have Dylan's perspective on the first episode.
Exactly.
Like, I love Tyler, the Creator.
Me too. He's just like, I was also there.
I wonder if we'll ever get him on, and we'll have.
I think we should.
We'll revisit the story once again.
I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be good. I'm sure he'd be game for it.
It would be fun to have like a sibling episode.
Yes,
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe like every 4 episodes or so, we're gonna have to backtrack just a little bit and make sure we got everything right, because we're doing it off the cuff for the most part. So
yeah, there's some like nerves and just kind of trying to recall things quickly. So we just wanted to clarify that, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a few other things to touch on. I guess it's funny how we worked backwards here.
We totally did.
Something you've consumed. You know, it's funny. Sorry. Before we get into that, for a lot of our business, like our work calls, for the last year, maybe not the last year, but like years ago, we used to say like something new. Like everybody had to bring something new to the table. Somebody had to say a success and a failure.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what
pits
this
and
feels
valleys
like.
Or something, or we're like,
who knows?
Something that went well this week and something that didn't go so well.
Right. Yeah. So that's our version of that is
something we consumed.
Yeah. So
yeah, that'll be our reoccurring.
So hit me. I want to hear yours first.
Okay. I feel like there's a couple things this week, but I specifically the Kid Cudi album came out on I think Saturday or Friday. And so I listened to it right off the bat, and my feelings have changed like from when I listened to it the first time, because similarly to when we said do genres matter, because at first I was like, oh, this is like a hard rap album, and then I don't really listen to hard rap anymore. That was like immediately what I thought, and then we chatted about it, and then I gave it a couple days, and I'm like, okay, chill, like give it one more chance, because it wasn't the exact same style as what he had done previously. And so I went back and I listened, and I have to be in the mood for that kind of genre, but even so, it still is really good, and I enjoyed the first song and the last song. I think I liked both of those the most. But it's fun to see. Yeah, well, we will throw them in the playlist. But it's fun to see artists like play around, and we've talked about that before, where like we can't expect the exact same thing every time, but it's hard to, because you love being in your comfort zone, so it's hard to push yourself out of that and be open to other things. But I mean, when you love the artist, you just kind of root for them, and you're like, well, I'll listen to it anyways, and so you just like enjoy it.
I kind of love that. Like the idea of playing around and like appreciating them playing around, because that's what we're all doing anyway.
And there's so many and there's so many fun features on it, which is like just fun to me. So I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. By the end of the week, I enjoyed it.
Did you think anybody like posting on social media had an influence? Like I saw enough people reposting some of the songs that I was like, okay, maybe I should go back to that one.
No, because I redeleted Instagram again. So It was an honest opinion, but usually that would give me some like, oh man, am I missing out on something? Are people having a different listening experience than I am? Usually that would inform me to like go back. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I maybe I have to revisit myself because I think I listened to like 75% of it. Mm-hmm. If I had to put a percentage.
Sure.
And we had talked about this already, but the songs that had the most plays were definitely the ones that stood out to me the most. And it's possibly because of the numbers that were on it, but I genuinely thought those were the best songs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's always, it doesn't mean that you're like a follower. It just means, sometimes it just means a beat like hits really hard. And
sometimes that is helpful though. If like,
yeah, that's true.
If you want to go listen to the best music on that song, chances are a lot of people liked it aside from just you. So
yeah, you can kind of, if you have 10 minutes instead of like the full hour, you can kind of like pick the top ones and go through. But no, I mean, I don't know. That doesn't work with every album, but yeah, it's fun.
It is fair to say that he's like one of the creative minds of our generation. Like
100%. Yeah.
And has influenced a lot of people. So.
Yeah. And I love like the journey it takes you on, because immediately I went back and listened to old stuff. And then I said I went back and watched Intergalactic again. And so it's just fun when it, like you fall back in love with them again after it's been a while. And like you kind of maybe forget or like always onto the new stuff. It brings you right back to the artists that you really enjoyed.
You know what we need to do aside from this podcast is like create a playlist that we're just feeding, because I need to hear some of this. Like anytime you like go back, I'm always so curious to hear what you're listening to.
We can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Then we could just even we could talk about it again, but I don't even care about that part. I just I just want to hear good music.
Agreed. Yeah, let's do that. That'll be fun. Okay, what did you consume this week?
Okay. So this is like it has no relation to anything we've talked about today, but
that's fine.
Do you know who Tony Robbins is? Like, did you know who he was before? Okay.
Tony Robbins? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I do.
That's crazy.
I'm very good at some impressions. Like a lot of my friends.
Like, what do I think? You're living under a rock? Like, why am I asking such a ridiculous question?
Do you know who Barack Obama is? Have you ever heard
of? Oh man, yeah. Tony Robbins. I don't even know how much I have to say about him, but I did find it really interesting how he spoke to Theo Von on his podcast recently. Mm-hmm. And he also does this, I guess ever since COVID, he's done a free seminar for just under 200 countries, every country in the world.
I get his YouTube ads every time I'm watching a video.
Is that? Yeah. That's fair. I think I stumbled across it, but I just appreciate that, like, whatever he's learned in this world, he's not just like leaving up to, I mean, he's rich as hell, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
But to have something that's free for people, I thought was kind of cool. Like, he's built himself up to a point where he can do stuff like that.
And I think he knows what he's... Sorry. I think he knows what he's talking about. So, like, it's cool that he's offering his knowledge on a free platform to people.
Yeah. Typically, I'm, like, kind of drawn, like, and I'm, like, pushed in the opposite direction when I see his name pop up on things, because I'm like, you know, he is such high energy. That voice is, like, kind of exhausting to listen to for too long.
I know.
But in this case, like, I think he's actually serving a lot of, like, valuable information for people that might be going through hard times.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to listen to it. I saw it come up and I'm like, oh, okay, this could be cool.
Yeah. I think I'm only like, I haven't even finished it all the way through, but
it's long.
It's a little bit longer, but it's good. that's what I consumed.
That's awesome.
Not too many more comments on it. It's just might
just
be
some
worth
feel good.
Listen.
Yeah, some feel good stuff.
I wanted to tell you this story though before we.
Okay.
If you, before we close things out.
I'm excited.
That's what our plan is.
Yeah.
So, so I just moved out of the apartment that I was renting.
How long ago?
I guess it's been like 2 months.
Okay, so not long.
Yeah. And so before the condo was sold, I had to go back a couple times to make sure that the dishwasher got installed, a new dishwasher, and like new smoke detectors. So I go over there to get the new smoke detectors put in with an electrician, because I guess it had to be hardwired to the unit.
Yeah, and it has to be like safety of some kind, or like, I don't know.
Right. So it was super cold that day. It was feeling like minus 50 in Calgary. And
sorry.
Yeah.
50?
It was minus 36, feeling like minus 50 with the wind chill. So it was crazy.
That's dark.
Yeah. But it was very sunny. So the electrician goes out to his truck. He gets the smoke detectors, and they start like blaring as soon as he installs them. So he's like, okay, these are defective. I'm going to throw them out and put new ones in.
Oh.
Like once he's installed them, I stick around for like an hour. I'm just like doing stuff on my computer in this empty condo. And everything seemed good. So I just left. And that was like my last visit to the condo that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And my dad gets a phone call or an email. I don't know if it was a phone call or an email from the people from, or the building management, saying that your smoke detectors have been going off all night. And he gets this message at like 11 a.m. the next day. So my neighbors must be going crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I rush out the door.
That's bad.
I see that they've like tried to fill the crack like under the door with reusable grocery bags.
No.
I'm like, oh Lord, I should apologize to some of these people now that I've turned it off and everything. I'm like, did you guys hear like the smoke?
Did you hear that?
They're like, oh yeah, but it was because the first lady that answered, she wasn't really like, it was like she was shocked to see me. So
oh wow.
so I don't think she was prepared to even answer questions.
My line of questioning.
Just apologized to her, and then there's a guy on the other side. I apologized to him, and he's like, no problem. I thought he seemed like a little bit of a grumpy person every time I've interacted with him. But he was like super sweet and kind and nice about it. He's like, don't even worry. It's all good. I'm like, okay, this is surprising.
He's like, the guy with the big speakers is moving out. I don't care. I'm excited.
It's funny that you just said that, because so the new smoke detectors get installed. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go tell this neighbor that I have fixed, like the issue has been fixed, and I'm going to give him my number in case it happens again.
Sure.
So he doesn't have to wait on the building to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
So I knock on his door. He opens the door. He's like, come in for a second. And I go in there, and he has like a huge collection of like speakers, monitors, and like CD players, and like he has a big stack, like a huge listening setup. And I just started asking him a million questions about it, because I'm like damn curious.
Yeah.
And he's been collecting this stuff for decades. He used to own an audio store. And I mean, he's like got to be like 65.
That's super cool.
Older. And he's like, because we had such good conversation and we were like, I was learning so much. He's like, okay, you got to try listening to this. So I like sit in this chair.
So now you're hanging out.
So now you're fully hanging out. Yeah. And I guess the setup that he had, and I'm really telling you this story because of we were talking about big speakers and CD players. I think it was like a $10,000 setup that I was sitting at listening, and it was one of the most like immersive music listening experiences. Like the guy doesn't have anything else in his apartment other than just like
he has an empty fridge. He has a closet, no clothes, but this.
Yeah.
This is what he has.
It was so cool. It was so cool.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah. And then he like texted, because now he has my phone number.
Now we're friends.
Me, he's like, yeah, one of the things about this hobby is that it's very hard to share with people. Like, people really don't care for this, you know?
Yeah.
So he was really appreciative of it. And
oh my gosh.
Just like such a feel good moment, you know? And it's crazy because him and I we lived right next to each other for 2 years.
Gosh, yeah.
And he was hearing my music and I was hearing his music. And he's like, yeah, now that I think of it, you had stuff on that I like I could hear and I liked.
Yeah.
And I was like, I Shazammed some of your music. Like,
no. Oh my
seriously.
gosh.
Yeah. So that was a crazy
awesome.
experience.
That's
but
a good story.
I wonder if it's better that I had to move out because who knows where that, like, we could have gotten too deep, maybe. Who knows?
You could have it would have been where you were there every single day. Like no other surrounding to the world, just at the $10,000 setup.
Yeah.
He would have been like featured on your next album.
He might still be. Who knows?
That's actually a hilarious story.
Yeah. I meant to tell you that earlier in the week. I completely forgot, but I wanted to share.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel like I think we were passionate about this stuff, so it just flowed really easily.
Totally.
It's kind of fun to pick like some not pop culture topics, but just like, I don't know, things that have popped up throughout our week that, like, I don't know, just make sense. And then we can throw them in. It's cool.
Yeah, it's funny when we kind of land on something that we don't know a whole lot about.
Yeah.
Because I feel really challenged. Like, we're talking about the the genre thing.
I couldn't answer the question. Like, I don't.
Maybe it's just too abstract of a question.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like a spider web, though, where we had like something in the beginning that like prompted it, and then all of a sudden we had like a few things. I don't know, like I sent you a YouTube video, and now here we are with like a whole episode of different stuff. So yeah.
Stoked.
Wow.
Okay.
Cool.
I think that's it for this week.
Yeah. But also,
Jasmine's
like,
gonna close it out this time.
Yeah. But also, like, thanks to everybody for all the feedback.
Yes.
Because technically we put out our first episode last week. This week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Sunday,
yeah, because we've just been
week,
like,
right?
Exactly, because we've just been like pumping out episodes. So we finally got feedback from people this week, and it was really nice to see all of our like friends that listened to it right away, and everybody like so excited about it. So it was exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool to hear like some of your friends that reached out and what they were saying. It's pretty encouraging. So
yeah, and nobody knew about it, so it was like a big surprise, which was fun.
Yeah.
So
we're kind of on track to continue weekly. But who knows? Maybe if we do decide that we're gonna like research a little bit more on certain things, maybe we space it more. Yeah, we'll see. But right now we're on that weekly grind.
We do.
So
all right, until next week then. Do work. All right, peace,
y'all.